Welcome to the Intern Whisperer. Our show is all about the future of work and jobs. So this week's tip of the week, we are pulling from the Myers-Briggs assessment, extroverted versus introverted personality types. It is where we gain energy, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more. Extroverted individuals tend to be interested in engaging with their environment, and they feed off the responses of people and events around them. They enjoy pushing the limits and seeing what the world can do. This all depends on many other factors and life's natural limitations, but extroverted personality types lean toward taking the initiative and relying on the world around them for validation. Introverted individuals are well suited to many situations. They have a tendency to be reserved, which helps these personality types tend to pace themselves. They're likely to listen to others more carefully. They're very introspective, and they enjoy more focused alone time, which leads to more and deeper insights. And while sometimes they're too sensitive to their environments, this often helps them pick up cues more quickly, making them great at reading many situations. All right. So here we are. We have this week's guest I'm very, very excited to share, is Kim Oppelt with The Company is Class. And Kim, just so you know, we always kick our show off with tell us 5 words that you use to describe yourself and why those 5 words. Before we get into anything about your story, it helps our listeners know more about you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So thank you very much. So 5 words that describe me. Let's see. So let's start with curious. I my coworkers will definitely tell you that I'm a curious person. I love to ask questions. I love data. I love making data-driven decisions, and just all around a curious person. I think both in my professional life and personally as well. So that would be my number 1.
Okay.
Second would be a connector.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love meeting people, and then I love to connect people with other people. So I'm a serious networker in so many different ways. I love to hear people's stories. I love to find out what they do for work. I love to, just find out what their passion is and then connect them with others. I also love to find out too how any new connections might have other people in tandem. So I love to see my 5 degrees to anyone that I meet.
Yeah, I'm going to take you up on that because my company is a startup and I can definitely use lots of connections. So I don't think we can ever have enough friends. I'll say friends, but connections for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think especially in startup land, connecting, no matter, if you're a big 300 employee startup or a 2-person startup, making those connections is important and it's inspiring too.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you said passionate as your 3rd word. Why passionate? Well, you're exuding it. I can tell that's who you are. So
I am passionate. We'll talk a little bit more about my path, but along that path, I found a true passion in college and career readiness, in future readiness, and just the whole topic of advancing students who might be from underrepresented backgrounds or just trying to find their passion in life. So I am very passionate about that. I'm passionate about hockey, just so many different things. I'm a very passionate person and love to share whatever I'm passionate about.
Oh, man, I can tell we're going to get along great. Okay. Your 4th one, you said cheerleader. I was a public classroom teacher, but you were in some other aspect of this.
I was a high school counselor. So I was a college counselor in a private school. And then I was also a high school counselor in a large public school district. So during that time, yes, I was a cheerleading coach, and I can still use my cheerleading coach voice when I need to, but really I feel like I am a cheerleader because I love to cheer others on. I like I said before, I'm curious and a connector, and all of that leads into me just being the biggest fans for so many people in my life, my kids, my friends, my coworkers. I just really love to see good work being done, and I love to celebrate that good work. So a lot of people will say that I'm their biggest cheerleader.
It's important to have that, honestly, because we get that with our parents and sometimes with our siblings, but maybe when we're older. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But having people that are your cheerleaders, your evangelists, those that help, that's how it's contagious. It helps us go, okay, yes, I can. Yes, I can do this because Kim's on my side. So yes.
Right. Yeah. And I think too, in this remote work culture that we're in now, it's sometimes hard to find a connection with people, and celebrating and making sure that you highlight all of the good that's happening is part of developing a great culture. So, so it's really important to me, and it's really fun too.
I agree. Counselor, what, I taught high school. I taught middle and high school English. So what, did you specialize with a grade also?
Yeah, definitely high school. I spent my practicum in a middle school, and I didn't really ever want to go back. And now having a middle schooler myself, I see why. Yeah. Middle school is tough. They're cute and they're fun, but I was not cut out for middle school, especially before I had kids. So I was connected to the high school process very well, and then soon after developed that passion for the college plan, the career pathways, and just helping students identify who they were, who they wanted to be, and where they wanted to go. So that was definitely a great fit for a high school counselor.
Yeah, I can definitely identify with that. This is what I would tell the high school kids, because English teachers, so reading and writing to them a lot. I would say, you know what? God made you guys cute babies so they would fall in love with you. And then they turned you into teenagers. He turned you into that so that they could let go of you. Otherwise, they'd want to keep you there forever, Yeah.
Yes. As a parent of a ninth grader, I am seeing that develop. She is definitely developing into her own person, and I can feel detaching, but again, I'm her biggest cheerleader, and we'll follow her along, but no matter what path she takes.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I noticed was big bodies, but you know what? They're still little kids on the inside. They just have I'd have this 6'3" student here, but not really. They were really a 5-year-old on the inside.
Absolutely. And even when I was counselor and now even more during the pandemic, it was important to make sure that we were aware that these kids are still just kids, and their social and emotional well-being really comes first in all of this. And we have to remember that no matter how much they want to be adults, they have a lot of learning to do. And a lot of that comes just with that social emotional well-being.
It sure does. Yep. All right. You mentioned that you live where, because it's cold?
I live in, yes, my fifth word is cold, because I am perpetually cold. I live in northern Minnesota, where we still have a couple feet of snow on the ground and more on the way tonight. And we're cold, but we embrace the cold, and I embrace the cold. We have outdoor skating rinks. So I spend my winters watching hockey. My son play hockey, and my daughter downhill ski, and we're out skiing and snowboarding and things like that all winter long. So, so I embrace the cold, but I'm definitely cold.
Yeah, I feel you. Now I'm in Florida, so I'm pretty
the opposite.
We're in 82-degree weather, so it's like, yay us.
Yeah, sounds glorious.
Yeah, it's for real. Yeah. So you and I met when we attended the Future of Education Technology Summit. That was back in January, end of January, I think. Seems so long ago.
It really does. It really does. But what a great conference. That was my very first time at that conference after, 13 years in ed tech. I just had never been there. And that place had so much energy and so much positivity radiating through it. So
I
glad
agree with you because, when I went in there, I went, oh my God, I'm with my people again. I can feel it. Educators, we love geeky stuff. We're probably the original geeks too, but anyway.
Sure.
So you guys had your own room and you were doing a presentation. I'm sure you've done hundreds of these at all of these conferences that you go to now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we ran a few different sessions and having, a virtual classroom, working for a virtual classroom technology, we have quite a bit of insight on what the pedagogy behind really running a virtual classroom is like, and what best practices are, and just how we, can share knowledge with educators on connecting with students in that virtual world. It's not easy. It's not anything that many educators were trained for. I know I wasn't when I went through graduate school. So it was really nice to present to that group of educators, but also B, hear from them on what they're doing that's really moving the needle with their students and how they're, actually having fun with the process. It's been a long year, it's been a long 2 or 3 years actually for teachers especially, and to see them kind of find that spark and remember why they came into the profession was really, really great to see, especially in person.
Yeah. That whole conference, it was my first time. I have never heard of this conference. I feel so good that you're sharing that you had not either, because I went, how have I been in education, honestly, for 26 years, 11 in the public classroom, 15 in higher ed, and never have heard of this? Never.
Best kept secret, right? I hadn't either. And it's was giant. There were so many people there, and I heard so many stories about people who came year after year, and I'm regretting that I haven't heard about it, but so glad that I'm connected to it now.
Me too. I'm sitting here going, okay, yes, I know that they have another one that's coming up. It's towards the end of the year. I don't think we have to wait till next year. I think they're doubling down this year.
Correct. Yes. And I am in. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So aside from that conference, why don't you tell us what class is? I mean, you gave us a little glimpse of it, but go ahead and tell us more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So class is, it's our pandemic baby. So it is a virtual classroom technology that sits on top of Zoom and just adds teaching and learning tools to Zoom, just for a more engaging, data-driven environment for K-12 schools, also for higher education and in the corporate sector too. So we see a lot of training and development leaders using class in their company onboarding and enablement sessions. So it's a really fun tool that is actually, something that we were missing when we went to, or when we transitioned to emergency remote learning back in 2020. Our founder, Michael Chasen, who also was the founder and CEO of Blackboard, saw a need. He saw his own kids kind of struggling through online learning and having that one-dimensional experience in Zoom, and with the teachers doing their best and making it an engaging environment, it's still just very flat on the tools that you can use. So class makes that one-dimensional experience a little bit more fun and engaging, and I think more sustainable as well. So it'll be great to see how the virtual classroom is really utilized in with all ages and settings in the future.
I agree. Now, you used a word that I find interesting, and it was enablement. And so I did a real quick little search over here, and I was going, well, what's the difference between training and enablement? And it says enablement focuses on removing any roadblocks that prevent the employee from being successful. Training tries to cram knowledge in. Enablement draws it out. I think that's a very interesting observation. And again,
absolutely,
education a long time and never heard of it that way.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's more of a corporate word, and it's too bad because I think there could be so much enablement that happens in an educational setting, whether it be for teacher or educator professional development, or even just with students. But on the tech side or the corporate side, we're seeing a lot of enablement when it comes to helping prospective clients to understand, their problems and how, you can work together with them to solve it. So it's a very consultative process in enablement.
Yeah, I like it because it also sounds, it goes nicely with accessibility as another word that is more about inclusion and empowerment. So
yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's really, really good for that area.
Yeah.
So I was able to see some of your demos. I went to the website. I absolutely love it. I thought that the videos were just so engaging. And I was sharing it with some other people because I said, look at what this product does and look at how well the marketing people were really good and all this stuff. So I went, wow, this is like really good messaging. And I could see how you're actually improving for teachers in the classroom, helping for anybody in education, be able to improve that process because you guys have thought of everything.
Yeah. So our mission is to change the way the world learns, and there's no better time to do that than now. And with this opportunity and in everyone kind of focusing on the online learning environment, it's been a great way for us to test out what works and what doesn't, and then just connect with so many educators and facilitators to make sure that we're addressing their needs and that we're doing it in an innovative and fun way.
So where did you go to college? Because I kind of skipped a lot of steps there. Where did you go to college?
Class? Absolutely. So I took a roundabout way to where I'm at. I went I grew up in a very small town on the Canadian border, and probably didn't, do the most comprehensive college search and ended up maybe not with the best fit. I went to school originally to be a physical therapist, and I didn't really love science that much. And if you know anything about physical therapy, there's a lot of science that comes to it. So ended up changing my major and transferred to the University of Minnesota Duluth, which was south of where I grew up, but still far north, and graduated with an undergraduate degree in community health education. So from there, worked in nonprofits for a little bit and realized that I wanted to be a school counselor after being in some schools and really connecting with what they did. So I went to graduate school at the University of Wisconsin Stout full time. It was a great experience. The school itself is just a great hands-on polytechnical school, and met my husband there, and from there became a school counselor. Like I said, I was a school counselor in a public school for a while, and then as school counselors do, got laid off and transferred into a college counseling role at a private high school in Minneapolis. And it was there that I started my doctoral pursuit, my long doctoral pursuit, and then wanted to move closer to free babysitting, we call it, which is my parents, so that they could, after we had kids, and where I moved didn't have any school counseling jobs. So there were only a couple of high schools around, no openings. People don't really leave school counseling jobs around here. No. And so I transitioned into ed tech, which is a totally new space for me, but ended up being a great fit.
Oh, what was your PhD dissertation?
My dissertation was, I'm going to save you the long title and just describe it. It was a study on how first generation students make their ultimate college decisions. So not necessarily where they apply to, which I think there's plenty of research on, but really how they got to their final decision. And it was a phenomenological study. So It was primarily interviews and just really eye-opening and inspirational and devastating all at the same time. There's just...
So I think it's because of whatever their parent wants them to do. Is that the case?
Not necessarily. No, not for these first generation students. And the first gen students in my study ended up being majority students of immigrants. So first or second generation immigrant students. So their outcome overwhelmingly was they wanted to be close to home so that they could support their family and live at home. Mm-hmm. And they needed it to be affordable. So those were the two.
I was expecting it to be international, to be honest, because usually those are the first gens that you do see coming into college. However, I know that there are underserved communities. Mm-hmm. And I've had some of those students too, and they make a very compelling case as to why they wanted to move up in ability levels.
Yeah.
I had basic, and then it was standard, and then it was honors, and then it was gifted. So for them to be able to skip an ability level, it was significant. Yeah. I let one that was in basic, and he was an immigrant, move up into standard. And from standard, he moved up to honors. He came to me at graduation and he sought me out and he said, because of you letting me do this, I am the first person in my family going to college. And that was like, I did not see that coming. And it was very rewarding.
Absolutely. And rewarding and eye-opening, I think, at the same time. We definitely have to be cognizant of what we're teaching and what we're tracking our students to do, and be extremely aware of how we are, the courses we're placing students in and their ability. And, even for my daughter, when we registered, I knew that she was going to automatically register for advanced courses, but she could have very easily just not selected it. Right. And not every student has a pushy parent like me behind them saying that you're going to take this class because that matches your ability. So I think it's important for educators, English teachers, school counselors, principals, aides.
You have a lot of power as a teacher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's important to be that consultative being to a student, especially an underrepresented student who might not be see themselves on that same track. And that was, a big part of what I found throughout that study is that, first generation students, underrepresented students, minority students, and even just any student really without that confidence and knowledge needs to have someone in their lives who is inspiring them. And that came up quite often is, there's an adult in each of these students' lives who showed them the path and told them that they could do it. And so often, school counselors are, yes, in students' lives, but students might only see them maybe once a day or week or month, where teachers they're seeing every single day. So I know there are a lot of them, but a lot of students, but it's important to have those conversations and work it into every day with students to inspire them to achieve their potential.
You are not lying. I had 200 students that I managed, throughout a day. And that's like, there was 40 in a classroom too. So it was like 5 classes. Yeah, that's how many. It was a 6-hour school day, but 5 classes with that 1 hour prep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how do you connect with every single one of them? It's
work.
It is work. And I think if schools can do a better job of incorporating kind of a future going culture, I don't want to say college because not every student needs to go to a 4-year or even a 2-year college. But if they have, if schools are incorporating that into their talk track and making it just part of their culture, then students can just have that knowledge as they go through.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed is that, same as you, not everybody is on a track for college, but even still, since COVID, I feel like there's been a shift in education and how we see it. And people are wanting to, because we work online, everything is accessible online, whether it's church or grocery store or whatever you want to do, it can be brought to you. So now, people want to learn online. And that changes so much, because you can have a very successful career and be paid well in STEM, in technology, without going to, just like you said, a 2-year or 4-year school, just do boot camps and get some certificates.
Right.
One of the things that I saw that isn't taught is industries. So when you were a counselor, did you feel that you were preparing students for thinking about jobs in a particular industry? Because here you are, a counselor, and you totally did a shift into going into ed tech.
Yes. So absolutely. I was always the example for my own students. And, I thought it was very important, especially in early grades, to, start exploring things that you like. What subjects do you like? What activities do you like? Do you like public speaking? Are you on the speech team? Do you like, English and math, or what's your passion? And then eventually those evolve into maybe career cluster conversations or industry conversations. So I'm always a little skeptical when someone tells me, in 10th grade, I want to be a doctor. And I think that's great. I think it's great to have aspirations and to have a career in mind and think about that and drive toward it. But a doctor is what they know, right? Like, there are so many other cool STEM related or even just science related in industries or jobs out there that might be even more fun for them. And maybe it's pharmaceutical, or maybe it's something like physical therapy. So I try not to have students pigeonhole exactly the job that they want. I love the exploration. I love the curiosity, but I think it's important to keep an open mind and understand what's out there.
I agree. I'm going to hold on to this question for when we after we come back from the break. But when you're talking about this, I don't know if your own kids will listen to you, but I assure you they do, because I would go into those parent teacher conferences and say, yes, your kid is absolutely listening to you. Do you find that your daughter is maybe sharing the same counsel and wisdom with some of her friends? Have you been able to see that little glimpse?
Yeah, I hope so. And it's funny that you asked this, because I wasn't going to bring it up, but she's very active in her own career pursuit and even educational pathway. So we, as the college counselor in me that I am, we started an Instagram tracking process of her future pathway process. So we call it the search, and we go visit colleges. We just drive by, because in 9th grade, you don't need to do a full college visit, but we're stopping by colleges so she can see what a large college looks like and a small one, and then we share just kind of
visits, right?
Not official visits. Nope. Just if we're on a trip and we're in the area, we just swing by and take a walk through campus, or drive if it's too cold. But it's been a great way for her to just experience what various college campuses look like. And then we have conversations about registration and testing, and, just all of the things that you should help your 9th grader be aware of. And then as she moves through the process, we will continue to document it, and hopefully it's helpful for others who are her age, but then anyone, and really anyone out there that's starting to go through this process of having a high schooler, being a high schooler, and trying to explore what's out there for their next step.
It is. It's a really big step too. And a lot of times people are doing that when they're a senior. And I love the fact that you're doing it while you said 9th grade. That is perfect. Does she have interest in extracurricular activities like sororities or fraternities even? Because that was one of the big selling points my dad said to me.
Yeah. So we haven't had that conversation too much right now. We're focusing more on, right now on location and feel and in educational offerings. And then also even, how much an institution costs, what their aid and grants look like. And then, just their clubs and offerings. So that will definitely, the sororities and fraternities and the whole social life will definitely come into play and probably be a conversation for next year.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
I taught 9th and 10th grade. So yeah, I know that's a big
they're an interesting character. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. So we're going to take just a moment to acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
And we're back. And in the second half of our show, we always talk about the future of. What is it going to look like for jobs, for the industry, for whatever? And so some of the things we talk about is a virtual world. Or in this case, AR, VR, augmented reality, which was the AR, just for our listeners, remote, blended, on-site, all of these great things. What you guys were talking about a virtual classroom as it looks like now, but what is it? I don't know. Has class planned that out? Like, 3 years, 4 years? What could it possibly? There's no right or wrong answer, crazy. In my opinion. It's just speculation right now.
It really is. Yeah. Our roadmap is aggressive and interesting and innovative, and it's changing. I mean, every single month, even it's amazing to see what has come out of the past 2 years and all of the innovation. I think, there was maybe $30 billion. I think I saw that was poured into ed tech in 2021 alone.
Yep.
And so the market is ripe. I think our schools, our K-12 and higher education institutions are ready to innovate. We've been, especially in K-12, in the same spot for 70, 80, 90, maybe even 100 years of how we're teaching students in a classroom with books and sitting at desks. And it just really hasn't evolved. And there has been a lot, of talk about the evolution of education, but it's really been accelerated over the past 2 years, which has been really fun to watch. Just
oh my gosh,
really fun to watch, really fun to be a part of. And I think, right now at class, we're focusing a lot on engagement, on metrics, on just making sure that, students can learn regardless of space or place. Mm-hmm. So space, place, or time even. So for our college students and maybe even for our high school students, we want them to have access to a high quality education and things that they are interested in, no matter where they live or what they do. If they're a single parent, if they're working and supporting a family, we want them to be able to learn from anywhere and at a time and place that's convenient to them. I think there's been a big focus on access and equity, just because we're expanding the world for students who aren't able to, make it to a college campus or, drive there or take time out of their workday to be there. So that's where we're at now. I would say the future is going to be a time of connectedness. So even at class, which we're about 18, 19 months old, we're talking with so many other ed tech companies. We have a partnership with Intel. We have a partnership with, obviously, we work very closely with Zoom. We have a partnership with D2L and just so many education partners are coming together and making learning fun and accessible and engaging and smart. And we really have the opportunity right now to make a connected world using the tools and and just the brains of so many brilliant ed tech people out there who might not be just with one company. And so I'm excited to see them all come together. I think one major hurdle we're going to have to tackle as we move forward, especially in higher education, is the balance between synchronous and asynchronous learning. Mm-hmm. So I know when I did online learning in college and grad school, and even in my doctoral program, a lot of my online learning was asynchronous. So posting to message boards and having conversations through typing. And we would maybe come together for a class or a lecture every once in a while, but no one wanted that because it was boring, right? Like mm-hmm. It was just the instructor talking at you. Everyone had their cameras off. There was no way to interact or hang out with our classmates. But now, we've added proctoring to online learning, the online learning classroom. We've added whiteboards. We've added ways for teachers to oversee breakout rooms, even so they can break students up, deploy different activities to each of those breakout rooms, but then see which room might not be exactly, on task or which one might need some help, so the teacher can just drop in by overseeing that. And then I think, the other part of the future of virtual learning is just the metrics we'll have out of it. So we're so early in right now that we don't necessarily have all of the engagement metrics that we would want to make those heavily data informed decisions. So I'm looking forward to, in the next 2 or 3 years, us having just so much data on talk time and hand raising and what activities are really moving the needle in virtual learning, so that we can share that with the world and help them to produce, even better outcomes in their virtual classrooms.
You mentioned a couple of things, so I'm going to touch on them. You mentioned proctoring. I know mm-hmm. that UCF is the second largest, and that's where I live in Orlando, second largest college in the country. One of the things that the students had told me and it was taking place actually even before COVID, but now it shot through the roof, was mm-hmm. the ability to take exams. So mm-hmm. they would go to a testing center before COVID, and they would have to sign up. And this testing center was 24/7. They were always being, asked to take a test that would be, because the classes are like 300, giant size classes of students, and they're doing it online in a testing center. COVID happens. Now you have to do it from home. How does a company such as yours help ensure that the integrity and the rigor is in place in those exams? Because this is like, no, I can't watch you and see that you were cheating. No, how do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're seeing colleges spend so much money on proctoring alone that it would just blow your mind, those line items.
Because they would expect that.
Yeah, it's been a big business. And so that's part of what we were trying to tackle when we added proctoring into our system. And we were just talking to an institution that said that they've saved over, $500,000 just going to allowing their professors to oversee their own proctoring through class. And it's just, it's a method where you see the student's face and you see their computer screen and you proctor in that way and just, trust the students and as well as oversee the process and make sure that course is going well. And it's important. And, those giant classes, it's hard to proctor all of that, but, we're seeing that it really is important for, to measure that knowledge and not completely get rid of those assessments. So it's been a really big piece of what we do at class.
Yeah, I can definitely, see that some of the students now, I was going, how does that happen? When I would ask them, they said they would either have to take a picture of themselves, they would have to scan their driver's license, send that, and then, they would check in so that, yes, this is them. They are watched the whole time so that screen is on, so they know that somebody didn't tag out and do that. And I went, wow, this sounds like stuff straight out of a surveillance, from a detective.
Yeah.
But it's necessary. You're talking about saying somebody has the knowledge to do something, and I don't want to have the person that was wanting to go through law school or medical school and having cheated their way through, because I'm like, no, I don't want that person. So it doesn't matter whether it's honestly somebody that's a graphic designer or whatever. Integrity and rigor means everything in this instance.
It really does. And I think, the mindset of both students and in institutions is evolving over this too. I think the students of today are used to taking exams online, right?
And also being on camera.
Yeah, you're used to being watched. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that integrity is coming to fruition, where we're just going to, it's something that they'll be used to. They'll be used to being watched. They'll be used to taking tests in this way, and it'll be all they know. Where, our tests we're sitting at a desk, filling in a dot or doing some math on a worksheet. This is going to be the way that students know from now on.
Yep, definitely. I saw that. And then you had mentioned something else that was in that course. I should have written it down because it was significant to this whole process of what online learning is more than likely, having the cameras on. I feel like there's this place where people don't want to do it. And it's also because it's very sedentary, whereas if I'm in the room, I can get up and I can move around. Oh, I know what it was. It was your metrics. So what my concern is by having us with the ability to work remotely, to not be in school settings, we lose a lot of social skills and visual acuity to be able to capture, what is really going on here. And my concern is that two things, that people are going to become more introverted and afraid to communicate with others. That's the first one. But then the second one is those that I just saw an article come out that are introverted types, they are now hungry for going back into the office. So I feel like it's going to take a flip at some point in time, and people go, yeah, we really do want to have a separation from work and home, just because I don't want to live in the place and work in the place all the time, and one classroom teacher, right? So I throw a lot at you. So
I think that's valid, and I think we'll see a couple of different things happen. I think we'll see maybe some group separating, right? So I've been a remote worker for 14 years, and to see that evolve, and I think that's, this is where I'm meant to be, is a remote place. I love to go visit with my colleagues and go to conferences, and even have co-working opportunities for a couple of days at different places. I do think that there will be people that would like to go back to the office as well. And I think there will be a lot of opportunity and a lot of need and desire to have a hybrid situation. So while companies, might have their office space and might, or might build it, in our case, we won't, we're 100% remote company, as we should be, but it's important for those interactions that we're having at the office to be purposeful, right? So if we're bringing everyone together in an office, then we don't want them to have Zoom meetings at their desk or class meetings at their desk while they're there. So we're kind of taking a look at reimagining that as well, and having, maybe a hybrid situation where people are together at a table, but maybe some people are at home because they have to take care of their kids, or they have a delivery coming and they can't leave, or they're not feeling well. So we're imagining that hybrid situation in business, in education, where the activities that you're doing in a virtual classroom are applicable to in-person and online, so that everyone can feel part of the group. Everyone's in a place where they are able to thrive and are comfortable and are going to, be happy and sustain. So that's that first one. And then back to the metrics conversation. I think what we're looking at is is really understanding the metrics that we used to get from that physical classroom that might have been subjective. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, students can raise their hand on class. They can say, they have an indicator where they can tell the instructor that they need to run to grab a glass of water, or if they want to have their cameras on, they can have it on for the whole class, or they can have it on just for the teacher to see them. So there are definitely some privacy issues, and we're trying to address the everything that would be most comfortable for the student. But then we measure talk time, we measure hands raised, we measure, we can see if a student is navigating over they're clicking over into another web browser or something like that, so that they might not be on task. Mm-hmm. And we're measuring, obviously we have assessments built in and those types of things, but we're trying to measure maybe those non-cognitive skills or non-cognitive feedback areas that are so easily measured in that physical classroom. So that's what I'm really excited to see and use as we move forward and determine really what makes an engaging class.
Yeah, I could see one of the metrics that should be included is, because usually they're not supposed to be taking a phone with them into the classroom on the grounds, but if you're always having to look at a screen, and if I'm constantly like, I keep my phone down, but I'm like this, you might be questioning me. It's like, hey, Isabella, are you on your phone? Mm-hmm. So as an instructor, you can be able to track that too.
Absolutely. And that's what makes me so excited about our partnership with Intel is some of that maybe sentiment analysis where you're reading faces and eyes and seeing, who's engaged due to what their facial expressions are saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a very interesting whole topic because it does, as you mentioned, privacy. And you said, okay, well, somebody keeping their cameras off, there's that side of it. What I also would think would be a very positive impact, what I'd hope is bullying. So maybe there'd be less of that in the world where people are not experiencing that in the classroom, they're outside of it. Certainly it can be accessible on social media, and you can't go and, well, I guess Facebook and Google and whatnot say, yes, we can track everything you're doing.
Yeah. I think, students are having meaningful interactions in an online setting. And for some and many students in some instances, it is a great place, a great safe place for them to thrive. And I'm hoping that, this transition to the openness to online hybrid learning is going to allow students who might feel that they can't thrive in an in-person environment, either all the time or half the time, to really experience a positive learning environment online.
So how old is this company? You said 18 months?
You're about 18 months old. Yes, a year and a half.
Whoa. Okay. That is a wake up call for me.
It's a large startup, I would say. We have boomed and
startup. Yeah. Just kind of like Zoom. Overnight they went boom like that.
Yeah. Yep. It was just, some great planning and an amazing vision by our CEO and his co-founders. And we've secured, some great funding from people like Tom Brady, Salesforce Ventures, SoftBank, and some other investors. And we can feel the positivity and momentum with us as we just continue to expand and grow and develop a product that's very informed by our educators and businesses. So it's an exciting place to be.
It is. So you went to the Arizona State and GSV Summit. I'm so envious. Tell me what that was like, because I cannot even imagine it. And for our listeners, we need to explain what that is. It's this giant educational conference, summit, whatever. And startups are all there. They're all competing for prizes and money. And one of the biggest ones was $500,000 of funding. Yeah. Funding. I think it's equity free even, right?
I cannot confirm that one, but I believe
I'm
so.
pretty sure it is. Because I remember that was one of them. I went, this is great. That would have been my fundraising round right there.
Right.
I think it's equity free, but they had two levels, more established companies like Class, and then, startups like myself. Anyway, do you have any way that you could possibly describe it so that I could feel like I'm there in this virtual conversations that I can see it?
Absolutely. This is one of my very favorite gatherings throughout the year. And it's something that I've been going to for years. And a long time ago, they introduced the education kind of sector, where they brought in educators, superintendents, college deans, college provosts and presidents, and really made this a true education conference. But it's really a unique gathering of educators, of investors, and of ed tech startups and professionals. And it's just a really exciting tech forward networking event where you get to see the latest and greatest from large companies like Intel and Zoom, but then some of these smaller startups that are just emerging and have just amazing innovative, brilliant ideas to bring to the market. So it's a lot of talking, which I'm game for, but it's a great way for people to make those connections, make partnerships, gain funding, and then for our educators that were there to also just see what's out there and see the best of the best, really, in educational technology.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I'm still getting emails from it, and it's going, well, what did you think about the virtual summit? And what did you think about this and this and this? And I'm going, next year, I want to be there. So it's like the future of education technology, but like 10 times bigger, right?
It's definitely larger. It's a little bit of a different audience, where we have a lot of investors and a lot of business meetings.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, I know we talked about the impact that COVID had. We've been talking about remote and blended. Mm-hmm. Do you see anything else that would be a part of what the future is for either Class or even just as education? Because I really feel like the four-year school is going to be kind of downsizing somewhat, and people will be doing two-year programs, and then they will be more specialized, like educators, attorneys, doctors. Those are going for the four-year degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely seeing an emergence in micro-credentials, which is a huge need in both, in the high school, even middle school setting, just so students can understand different skills. And I worked for a brief time at a company called Major Clarity, where they were building student skills on, how to dress for business, and how things work in just a general work environment, to micro-credentials in different industries. So here are the skills that you need to be a welder. This is what a day looks like, and those types of things. So those micro-credentials are great. And then, moving into the 4-year or post K-12 world, the micro-credentials that end in a certificate or a credential that you can either show your current employer and advance through your career, or show to a prospective employer. And that's something that's really exciting, as students intern and meet businesses, to have those little credentials where you can say, hey, I know how to, do Java. I know how to do this version of social media interaction. Just little micro credentials, I think, are going to be the wave of the future. And how I see technology coming into that is, I think remote learning has been great for the general skills so far, a little less effective for some trades like welding or nursing or some of those hands-on trades. So I'm excited for what maybe AI, virtual reality, all of those roles play in those hands-on training skills. So, can we bring someone from across the country to teach a skill in nursing? Can we bring someone, who might have can we allow someone to practice, starting an IV or something like that through virtual reality? So that's what I'm really excited about. One thing we have to remember, though, as we move forward with all of this technology and all of this exciting stuff, is that that education is based on human connection, right? So we're not going to replace that connection that students have with teachers or their TA, or
accelerate the need.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have to keep that in the back of our mind that these technologies are not developed to replace an educator or replace the interaction, the peer-to-peer interaction that students have. It's meant to accelerate that. So, for anyone evaluating an ed tech tool, I always ask them, how is this enhancing instruction, and how is this helping the teacher or the counselor or the professor? And it's important to remember. So, that above all is probably what I would tell anyone.
I totally agree with you. Mm-hmm. What is the best mentoring advice that you would like to pass on to our listening audience? And keep in mind, our listening audience is more on the business side, not really students. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So as a double whammy, an educator, former educator, and B, a woman in tech, I think one of the things that I had to learn and that I was failing at early on was advocating for myself. So I had a mentor that really helped me to step out of my comfort zone and advocate for myself. I was great at advocating for others, but I learned that I need to, no one's going to read my mind, right? So no one's going to know my thoughts. They're not going to know my aspirations. They're not going to know my frustrations if I don't say it. So that was something that I had to learn, and something that I continue to tell others, especially as they, get involved in business or tech, and even education, is that, it's important to advocate for yourself and let your thoughts and your desires be known. And then others can come and be a cheerleader for them as well.
There's that cheerleader. I love that cheerleader. I'm one of those people too. So how can people connect with you? We typically share your LinkedIn profile, but is there anything else? I know you guys have a website, but I'm sure there's forms.
Yep, absolutely. LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn and on Twitter. So Kim Oppelt on Twitter. For our class presence, we are everywhere. So we are definitely at class.com. We are on LinkedIn and Twitter, Instagram, and our biggest presence, however, is on TikTok. So you can find us if you search class.
Oh,
yes.
I know why too, because I met her. She's
sure do.
Giant influencers. So you want to go ahead and because I
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So we have taken social media marketing to the next level, and we were lucky enough to be able to bring on to our team our teacher in residence, and she has a giant TikTok presence as well. Her name is Ms. Southard, Sutherd, and she is just got married. Yes, she did just on Saturday. She is on TikTok, and she shares some really funny moments from when she was in the classroom. And she also has a great message of teaching her own students to be socially involved. So they did a big fundraiser for a charity, and she taught them all about that. So just really positive messages. And she was moving. So we had the opportunity to bring her on to be the voice of the teacher at class. And through that, she's also on our own TikTok channel, and she's sharing some best practices and some fun moments on the class TikTok channel. So follow those both. As a 40-something adult, it was hard for me to make that transition to TikTok, but it's really fun to see all of the collaboration and storytelling that happens on TikTok. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, she's a hoot and a half. I like it. I want to ask her to be a guest on the show. I started with you, so I'm hoping that maybe she'll say yes to me also.
She will. Absolutely. She would love to. Looking forward to it.
Well, anyway, I want to tell you, thank you so much. This has been delightful. I love taking a peek at what others think the future of, in this case, education, learning is going to be like, and especially with how you guys have done this nosebleed going up with class, to be able to be where you are and playing with those big players. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you to our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios. Thank you to our production team and video interns, Christian Flowers and Daniel Conti. Music is by Sophie Lloyd, and our sound engineer is Eric Peterson. Please visit Employers for Change at www.e4c.tech to learn how you can create real diversity and inclusive culture while upskilling your people for the future of work. Thank you for listening to the Intern Whisperer, and follow us on your favorite podcast channels.